Welcome to Dave Talks Ball in this September 23rd, 2024 episode. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, I should say, we are finally starting to see teams officially just take shape. We're starting to figure out who each team is. We're through 4 weeks. We are finally starting to see who these teams are. Week 4 to week 5 is my official week in today's college football now with transfer portal, lack of continuity on coaching staffs. That is officially when I'm going to start really putting hard titles, opinions, narratives on teams. After this week, week 5, because I feel like after this week, everybody's been challenged to some extent. But week 4 to week 5 is my official week when I start getting comfortable with teams and truly start to figure out who they are. We figured out some about Arkansas, Auburn, Mississippi State. I even think to an extent we figured out Missouri a little bit. This upcoming week, Texas A&M will have another challenge, playing Arkansas and Arlington. Obviously, the Alabama-Georgia matchup. But no more hiding, folks. All these teams are going to have exams or midterms they're going to have to pass after this weekend. Again, everybody will have been challenged to some extent. Tonight, we will obviously review the week 4 action. We had boots on the ground on the plains. Myself, and Chris Phillips were in Jordan-Hare Stadium for the Arkansas-Auburn game. We'll talk about it. We'll obviously talk about the big win for Josh Heupel and his Tennessee Volunteer program in Norman, going back to the old stomping grounds, getting the dub. That had to feel good. We'll break that one down. Vandy Mizzou, the overtime thriller, went down to the wire. We'll discuss that one. Obviously, the rest of the league, you know what it is too, though, guys. Week 4 of where Dave was right, where he was wrong. I'm going to discuss that. I'll be open-minded from that perspective. And can you already pencil in Tennessee to the college football playoff? We will pull up their schedule. I will show you. We will discuss. And this is the week. It got me thinking, is the SEC kind of just a 5-team league? Is it just Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, and who am I missing? And Texas? It's just those 5 teams right now, and then we got a gap, and it's just kind of above average to mediocre. We'll discuss money-making weekend review. We went 4 and 6, but I like the feel. Again, like I mentioned, week 4, week 5 is where we're going to separate ourselves, folks. I like the picks. I would bet them all again. I feel pretty good about them. We'll review them. Then a look ahead to obviously the big weekend that will be on Saturday in week 5 for the SEC. Obviously, everybody's going to be in Tuscaloosa for the big one between Alabama and Georgia. But before we get started, folks, this episode brought to you by our buddies over at MyBookie. Go to mybookie.ag and use code SECU at signup to receive a special welcome offer on your first deposit. Guys, it's betting season. I mean, you could be betting on the LSU matchup right now between the Commanders and the Bengals right now. I highly encourage you, college, pro, if you're trying to bet some Major League Baseball here with playoffs coming, go visit our buddies over at MyBookie.ag and use code SECU at sign up to receive a special welcome offer on your first deposit. Let's get to the chat room real fast. It is already bumping. Mark Bird says, go Hogs. Yeah, big win for Sam Pittman and the boys. We will get into that one. But, Mark, I appreciate you listening. Then Hans the Gray. Few truths in life. A few truths. Sorry, tongue twister there. Few truths in life. But Hans the Gray will be listening to Dave Talks Ball. He will be joining the SEC Unfiltered content, or he will be listening to it. He says, what a game Saturday night. All the Vol fans I met were solid fellas and ladies. I'd sit with you guys any Saturday. That's a phenomenal compliment from Hans the Gray. Has he gotten into it with any Tennessee fans on Twitter? Vol Twitter, it's a hostile group at times. Has he gotten into it? I don't know, Hans, but I appreciate you listening, buddy. I appreciate you coming back. But let's get to it. Let's go around the SEC real quick. Let's go around the SEC. Happened tonight. Brent Venables at his coach's show names Oklahoma backup quarterback Michael Hawkins, the starting quarterback heading into the matchup with Auburn. What does that mean? I mean, let's go look at it. He got subbed in for Jackson Arnold on Saturday. Jackson Arnold was really struggling, had 2 critical turnovers. After Oklahoma's defense had gotten turnovers. So he had a fumble inside the 5. And then he threw the lateral pass that obviously Tennessee had not. And I'm reviewing it, going back and watching the film, I think it was slightly a fumble. I would agree with that. But Hawkins finished against Tennessee 11 for 18, 132 yards, a touchdown, no turnovers, but he was sacked twice. First of all, I don't think this was just a quarterback issue here. I think this was a system issue. I think Brent Venables probably regrets, if you really asked him, hiring Seth Luttrell, the former North Texas head coach, as his new OC. As his new OC. There's not a lot of times where new OCs just come in for previous former group of 5 head coaches and just kind of turn it on as offensive coordinators at the Power 4 level. You just don't really see that a lot. Again, Kane Womack could be different. Kane Womack's different. Maurice Linguist is different. They left on their own terms. Seth Luttrell was fired. It's an RPO system, and that does not fit Jackson Arnold's strengths, in my opinion. I think Jackson Arnold fits a little bit better. It would not shock me if Jackson Arnold is in Starkville, Mississippi next year. Again, not saying that. Jackson Arnold could finish out the year for Oklahoma for all we know if Michael Hawkins didn't get the job done. But I think it would be a good fit for Jackson Arnold to go to Starkville. I think he would fit better in that Jeff Levy system. I think Seth Luttrell just wants to run an RPO system that doesn't fit to Jackson Arnold. I think the offensive line's bad. We got a bunch of receivers injured if you're a Sooner fan. I think Michael Hawkins has the ability to be mobile, move within the pocket, extend plays. He makes you better. He makes you better in this system if that's what you want to run. He just looks more comfortable. I think Jackson Arnold obviously has the higher ceiling, but I think if you're wanting to run this RPO system that Seth Luttrell wants to, I think you have to, especially with the offensive line not being able to protect right now. It's been a struggle. We knew that going into the season. Most realistic people did. It's probably a little worse than we thought. I think Bill Beanbo and them will get it figured out by season's end if they stay healthy to some extent. But it's just this offensive system. I think there's a lot of things wrong with Seth Luttrell and this Oklahoma offense schematically. Don't be surprised if Emmett Jones is the only guy that's retained with that offensive staff for Oklahoma this year. Remember, Brent Venables got that extension in the summer. This would be a big hire. This one could hinder him. It's almost like the opposite for Sooner fans. Going back 10 years ago, they were doing Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. They were doing whatever they wanted to people on offense, but couldn't stop us at nosebleed. Now, they can't put any points up. They can't really produce any offense, but they're stopping everybody. I mean, that was a heroic effort by that defense. We'll talk about it as we get into the Tennessee game. But again, first, around the SEC, Oklahoma is starting Michael Hawkins. That will be different this week, though. There's a difference between Tennessee didn't prepare for Michael Hawkins. He had to come in, throw in. There's a little more pressure off when you're just thrown in, and it's kind of a can't get worse situation. And you come in with a little bit like, hey, I'm going to come in a little bit more confident. We got nothing to lose. They pulled the other guy. I'm going to play a little more freelance, look a little more comfortable. I think that's where Michael Hawkins was. And then also, Auburn's going to prep for him now. There's a difference between being a starter on the road in the SEC and then just coming in the middle of a game where there's not near as much pressure. Let's see how Michael Hawkins handles that. I agree. I think you had to play Michael Hawkins because I think he fits this system that Seth Luttrell wants to run with a run-pass option. I think he fits better, and I think the offensive line for Oklahoma can't hold up. This gives Oklahoma a better chance to go make plays when plays break down from an improvisation standpoint. I like it. Harold Perkins, out for the year with an ACL tear he suffered against UCLA, and the Tigers win on Saturday. Unfortunate. Prayers up for him in his surgery and rehab. I expect him to be back next year. But where do the Tigers go from here? Brian Kelly said, quote, if we want to play 3 linebackers on the field, the first guy that would move out there would be Whit Weeks. Then Wes Weeks would move to Mike linebacker. Greg Penn would play Will. So if we wanted to be in Buffalo, that's their formation with 3 linebackers, we are still in really good position. Then he said, we could also look at going back into a star position where Major Burns playing stars backed up by Kylan Jackson. That would be the other look we'd have. So we have the versatility to be in either one of those defensive structures. You heard Harold, essentially Brian Kelly said they considered Harold Perkins a safety. That's what they did. He came out and said that. They played with numerous safeties all year. I mean, Major Burns is one. Sage Ryan's wanted hard. They moved him all over, nickel, corner. What do you do now? I could see him maybe going in that latter part with the whole Major Burns star position. That wouldn't shock me there either. But this is a big injury. Again, you've already lost Jacoby Guillory, who was your veteran on the interior and an already thin interior. LSU's probably lost 2 guys they couldn't afford. 2 easy guys they couldn't afford to lose. Again, I think this LSU team's going to be real boom or bust. They're going to give up explosive plays, probably create more turnovers than they had last year because they're more aggressive. And then they'll also have some negative plays as well. I think it is what it is. Harold Perkins, unfortunate. I mean, Brian Kelly said, hey, we can sit here, we can cry about it, or we have 10 other guys that'll be looking for us for answers, looking at us for answers. So you got to move forward. Unfortunate. It's a big loss for LSU as we're only 4 weeks in. We're a third through the season. Going back to the comments. Hans, he's back, baby. Now that Pancake Skywalker's on the bench, hopefully Hawkins will get some momentum going. We need a miracle on offense. Won't be around on Thursday, brother. Kids lost their grandmother over the weekend. Well, prayers to your family, Hans the Gray. Appreciate you listening, though, brother. But we'll send prayers to your family. We'll have a hell of a Thursday show for you, man. Manny Alcantara, appreciate you listening. I don't understand the ... but I will answer it if you put it in the comments. Appreciate everybody listening. Again, Dave Shoemate, host of Dave Talks Ball here on the SEC Unfiltered channel, former SEC college football player personnel director, and at other schools outside the SEC. Worked 9 years in college football in the recruiting offices around the SEC as well. But let's get back to around the SEC. Alabama will be an underdog in Bryant-Denny Stadium for the first time since 2007. Nick Saban's first year. Les Miles and the boys rolled into town. The year actually LSU won the national championship with 2 losses. Bama had a chance to win that one. If they got a 4th and 7 stop at the end, they win that one in Nick Saban's first year, have a good chance to win the West. But wild to say that Bama is an underdog in Bryant-Denny Stadium. It'd be funny. I'll probably tweet out tonight. If Nick Saban was still coaching in Alabama and it wasn't Kalen DeBoer, just hypothetically, and Nick Saban will be in the stadium and Donald Trump will be in the stadium. They'll both be in Bryant-Denny Stadium. I'm sure that'll be a madhouse when you factor in the Secret Service as well, getting everything hammered. I'm sure they're already there this weekend. But if Nick Saban's the head coach, Alabama's probably favored in this one. I mean, you've seen lines anywhere from 1.5, Pickett, 3.5. That's the line right now. But Bama is an underdog heading into this matchup against Georgia in Bryant-Denny Stadium. They're an underdog in Bryant-Denny Stadium for the first time since 2007, my senior year of high school, actually. The next, Hugh Freeze calling out his players. Quote, "I know there's people open, and I know we're running the football. We've got to find a guy that won't throw it to the other team, and we've got to find running backs that hold on to it," he said in his postgame press conference. First, Hugh Freeze isn't wrong. They need to find a quarterback that does not turn the football. They've had 14 turnovers. They're last in the country in turnover margin and turnovers given up. They've had 10 against Power 4 competition. They've had 5 against Cal, 5 the other day against Arkansas. I thought the one that was critical was the fumble into the end zone when he's about to score and at least go out within the 5 right before half, probably tied up. Game may have been a little different. But you know what? I mean, Arkansas turned it over too. And then I saw Hugh Freeze on his show tonight said if they played Arkansas 9 more times, they'd win all 9 games. Sometimes, some of these coaches, the narcissism, the awareness, you lost by double digits. And again, it wasn't like Arkansas was up by double digits the whole game. But you lost by double digits at home. You are now 2-2 when people expect you to be 4-0 heading into this Oklahoma matchup this week. You starting to blame players, really not taking any responsibility. You're saying you should have beat a team 9 times out of 10 that you lost to by double digits at home, and they left some plays on the field, had turnovers as well, didn't play great. I think it's a little asinine. Those are dumb statements, Hugh. Those are dumb statements. Bo Wallace comes out on Saturday night, just railing on him, says he's never done anything for him in his career. All quarterbacks you've seen in Hugh Freeze's system where they throw interceptions, they're all on the same routes. I mean, he was on one the other night. Bo Wallace. I mean, now Bo Wallace a little unhinged at times himself. Now, he was on with McCready and Siskey live, I think the other night on Saturday night. Again, I don't think he was drunk posting all this, but he was essentially hammering Hugh Freeze. And I had heard Hugh Freeze has reached out to him and tried to talk, and it just is what it is. But usually when there's smoke, there's fire. 2 things can be true at once. I'm sure wasn't coincidental that Bo Wallace went on social media and bashed Hugh Freeze right after this loss on Saturday. And then also, some of it's probably true from Bo Wallace's standpoint. But seems a little disgruntled. Take it for what it is. My point being, you don't throw your players under the bus, especially in today's era. You can lose a locker room easier than ever, and you have to create momentum throughout the season internally in your locker room. You do, especially with Auburn right now with no momentum. 2-2. If they don't win this week against Oklahoma, I'm telling you, Auburn legitimately will miss a playoff. Miss the bowl. They will not get to 6. I will say that right now because look at their next. They're on the road for a month. They go at Georgia next week, at Missouri, then at Kentucky. They won't be favored in any of those. Not saying they can't win one. Most likely probably either at Missouri or at Kentucky. But still, not good. Not good. Hugh Freeze needs some awareness. You don't throw your players under the bus after that. I get it. Plays are open. You do have quarterbacks turning over. You do have running backs turning over. He's right. 2 things can be true at once, but you just don't say it, and then you don't come out on your coach's show on Monday, just about an hour ago, and say on Tiger Talk that hey, we should have beat both Cal and Arkansas, and we would beat Arkansas 9 times out of 10. You lost to both those teams at home by double digits. Just learn to shut up. Just learn to shut up sometimes, you. So around the SEC, we are done with that. Let's get into some Week 4 review, guys. Tennessee controls the game in Norman. First, let's talk a little Tennessee. What was impressive with the Vols? I'll be honest. I think this is one of Josh Heupel's best games he's ever coached. If you go back and watch Josh Heupel when he's a younger head coach at UCF in Tennessee, when he was still learning the ropes, just transitioning from being a coordinator from his time at Missouri and Oklahoma to being a head coach in Orlando and Knoxville, I thought he did a phenomenal job. He didn't let his emotions get the best of him and try to embarrass Oklahoma. He knew if they didn't turn the football over, they were going to win that game. They were going to win that game. And I think some of those strip sacks against Nico, 2 of them, scared him a little bit. Like, hey, we're going to run the football. We're going to run the football here. We're going to get out of Dodge. We probably could have beat him a little worse if we wanted to. I mean, I'm dead serious. I mean, they ran for 151 yards on 52 attempts. 52 attempts. 345 total yards. Now, I think Tennessee will tell you they'd like to clean up the penalties. They did have 10. They did have 2 turnovers. I mentioned the 2 strip fumbles on Nico. But let's be honest, too, Nico hasn't even had his best game yet, which is kind of scary still. He was 13 for 21, 194, 1 touchdown. Not bad. He hadn't been bad at all. It's just, when is that light going to officially come on and you see a big day from Nico? I mean, they're off this week, and they get Florida. They go at Arkansas. They get Florida, and then Alabama. It's going to come on at some point. Tennessee still looks pretty good offensively, especially the run game. Dylan Sampson, 24 carries, 92 yards, and a touchdown. They're still trying to develop some of that depth as well across that. I mean, right after him, you had Deshaun Bishop, who had 16 carries for 65 yards. Nico, right after that, 8 carries, 15 yards. I'd like to see him a little bit more in the run game. But I know Tennessee fans a little upset in the second half, fourth quarter. Why didn't we try to stretch the field, make them pay? They did one time with Brew McCoy, and Brew McCoy had to lay out, make a nice grab. If Nico puts that on him, Brew McCoy won. He got the release. He had space, probably about 2 yards. Ball was just thrown a little ahead of him. That's a touchdown if he puts it on a dime. Brew McCoy's walking in. You saw him hit the You saw him hit Thornton. You saw him hit Thornton on that ball as well. He hit him. Dante Thornton hit him right in stride. That was a hell of a ball. But Tennessee offensively, I think they kind of just put it on cruise control in the second half because they knew as long as we don't turn the football over, we will win. Again, final was 25-15. For Tennessee, what won the game? The defense. Give Rodney Garner a golf clap, folks. How he's built that Tennessee defensive line, the depth. They go about 8 deep, folks. They're better than we thought. Linebackers, Keenan Peely and them are really good. And I think the secondary, a little bit better than we thought. A lot more man coverage going back and watching that game than I saw. A lot more man coverage. I'm just telling y'all. It was very impressive, Tennessee's overall game plan. And slowly but surely, Tim Banks may be up for the Broyles Award, folks. He's done a phenomenal job. But I did notice Ricky Gibson, Jermon McCoy were playing a lot more man. I mean, Tennessee did it the old-fashioned way when they stopped the RPO. This is a former type of offense that's more triple option based. It's really what it is. You can either run with the quarterback, one with the running back, or you can pass with the quarterback. You have 3 options. Tennessee put a man in charge of the quarterback as the potential runner with Jackson Arnold. They put him for the running back, and they played man coverage on the receiver. It was literally 3-on-3 in those situations. Give them credit. They thought their guys were better. And again, Oklahoma had some injuries. They did. Nick Anderson went out. I mean, they had some injuries. Deion Burke went out. They had a lot of injuries up front. But again, I think the big storyline, why I think Tennessee, we'll talk about it in a minute, why I think Tennessee's in the college football playoff when you factor in their schedules, because the defense, they are so deep on the defensive line. Amari Thomas, Bryson Eason, James Pierce, and Joshua Joseph's on the edge, Omar Norman Light, Elijah Simmons on the interior. They're really deep, folks. And that is why I think they will be in the college football playoff. Tennessee's a very good football team. Most impressive win for Josh Heupel since he's been a head coach. I tweeted it on Sunday. Tennessee fans loved it, but I truly believe that. He didn't get emotional, didn't try to go run up the score, could have forced more turnovers, put Nico and his defense in a bad situation. You know what? We're just going to run the football. We've been one of the best rushing teams in the country this year. We're going to lean on Dylan Sampson, Deshaun Bishop, our offensive line. We're going to get it done. Only concern for Tennessee, injuries on that offensive line. Lance Hurd was out this past week. John Campbell got injury. Depth at the tackle spot. That's not Tennessee's fault. Anybody would be struggling at that point. But that's something to watch. And the penalties for Oklahoma, you're making a move at quarterback. I don't like the system, but I think Michael Hawkins actually fits that system really well. Offense is what it is. It's beat up. Offensive line's not very good right now. Wide receivers, they're missing a ton of dudes right now due to injuries. I think defensively, Oklahoma, one of the best defenses in the country. That was a phenomenal, heroic performance to even keep them in a shouting distance of this game. This game could have – if Oklahoma's not good on defense, this game's it's over. 56-10 type game, I think. It's bad. It would have been bad, but, man, outside of Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman, Peyton Bowman, the guy that really gets me fired up if I'm an Oklahoma fan defensively, Robert Spears-Jennings, number 3. I talked about him going into the season as being one of my top 5 impact players for the Sooners. He is showing it. Give Brent Venables, Zach Alley credit. That defense came prepared to play. They talked all offseason how they were ready for this one. Oklahoma, not always bad, but you have to get the defense figured out. Big game coming up on the road on the Plains at Jordan-Hare Stadium. I think defense travels. Key will be Michael Hawkins starting that football game. Auburn will have a week to prepare to game plan against his strengths and weaknesses. We'll see. We'll see how it goes there. Tennessee, legit team though, folks. Tennessee is a legit football team. We'll talk about them. Are they already a team you can already put in the playoffs and feel pretty good? I'll tell you how I feel about that as well. Matthew Mayhem, offense. Oklahoma offense is just not that good. They remind me of South Carolina last year. Lots of injuries early in the season that result in them barely making a bowl game. I tend to agree with you right now, Mayhem Matthew. This weekend against Auburn's big. It's big for both teams. I think Auburn has to have it to get to 6. If Oklahoma wins this week, they're going bowling. They're going bowling for sure. I think that would lock in 6 for them. Obviously not mathematically in the moment, but I think it would lock it in. But I think you're right. Mayhem Matthew, I appreciate you listening, brother. Next, Hogs escape the Plains. They really did. It wasn't a pretty game across the board. A lot of turnovers in this one. We talked to Hugh Freeze. Auburn, 10 turnovers in their Power 4 performances. Hank Brown was not what Auburn fans were thinking. He was not. Started off a little hot, making some plays with his legs. Just really ended up just not getting it done, man. Just not getting it done. They went to Peyton Thorne in the second half. Just turnovers killing Auburn. Just lack of discipline, penalties, turnovers. Not good, folks. Not good if you're an Auburn fan from a offensive standpoint. Let's break it down. I thought Travis Williams had a good plan. They were aggressive defensively. Auburn only hit one busted play for that touchdown to Keandre Lambert-Smith. That's really Auburn's only thing to get real fired up about is Keandre Lambert-Smith, the Penn State transfer, 5 receptions, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns. He looked the most comfortable. Even the receivers, Perry Thompson, Cam Coleman, guys like that, running wrong routes instead of going in, they're breaking out. It was tough across the board. But again, I get it. If you don't trust in your quarterback, you're rotating quarterbacks, you can't get that timing down. That's going to be an issue. I didn't hate Hugh Freeze going to Peyton Thorne to open up the half. You had to get something. He brings in a dynamic to the run game. They didn't utilize that, but Peyton Thorne finished 13 for 22, 213, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Let me give you Hank Brown's numbers as well here. 17 for 13, 72 yards, and 3 interceptions. Woo, woo. I know some people said they would never see the Peyton Thorne era again at Auburn. Well, you hadn't seen Hank Brown play SEC competition yet against an aggressive style. But Travis Williams, just not a lot going for Auburn. I know Hugh Freeze is right. There's plays that are open, but that's on you for banking on Peyton Thorne being your guy going into 2024. I get it. Auburn has a lot of question marks. They aren't just a quarterback away from competing for the SEC or going to the playoffs. But you're probably not going to go to a bowl game if you don't win on Saturday against Oklahoma. You're not. You're not. Defensively, I thought Auburn and DJ Durkin had a solid game plan against Taylon Green. I thought they were keying him well, making him confused whether to give the ball in the read option or not. It was driving Bobby Petrino nuts. Some people thought they pulled Taylon Green. I talked to some people at Arkansas. No, he just had cramps when they brought in Malachi Singleton. So they didn't pull him. Maybe just give him a refresh. Like, hey, go handle your cramps with the training staff and get your mind refocused. We need to get going. I thought the difference was the third quarter, fourth down, third down conversion. They had like 3 of them on one drive late in the third that I thought was key. Either Taylon Green making them with his legs, going to Andrew Armstrong, getting a pass interference penalty. When Arkansas needed to make a play on third down, they did. That was the difference. This game was a 3-7-point game in the fourth quarter. Me and Chris Phillips were there, boots on the ground. We were there sideline pregame. You can kind of tell a very uneasiness with the Auburn staff. You're like, hey, guys, how y'all feel good? Y'all feel good about this? We'll see. I got that a lot. We'll see. It's what a lot of the Auburn staff told me. Arkansas, a little bit more optimistic, but even talking to some Arkansas staff members, when they were talking to Auburn staff members pregame, it was very, they're a little uneasy. You saw why. Thought both defenses had their moments. Like I mentioned, I thought both defensive coordinators, Travis Williams, DJ Durkin, had good game plans initially. That's still these are two very inconsistent teams. Arkansas is going to, I think we know who they are now. They're going to show some signs of being pretty good football team. But they're going to go one step forward, two steps back at times. Dumb penalties. It's just going to take Taylor Green just continuing those baby steps of getting more comfortable, getting his feet wet. They got a big one against a defensive coordinator in Mike Elko and Jay Bateman that are going to scheme him up and give him a lot of different looks. We'll see Taylor Green and Bobby Petrino this week. This will be interesting. A little worried from that perspective because they're going to throw more at him than any other coordinator's thrown at him so far. So I'll be interested to see that matchup in Arlington. Where does Arkansas go from here? Be a big one to get against A&M at home before they host Tennessee the weekend before. Maybe College Game Day goes to Fayetteville. That's kind of the word. If Arkansas were to beat A&M, word is College Game Day may be in Fayetteville for that one. Where does Auburn go from here? You got to win on Saturday against Oklahoma to go to a bowl game, folks, because you're not on the road. You're not at home for another 3 weeks. You go at Georgia, at Missouri, at Kentucky. I mean, what are we going to be saying about Auburn when they come back home on, November 2nd to face Vandy, I believe? Sorry if I missed the date a little bit, but something like that. But, man, for Auburn, turnovers. 14 total turnovers for the season, 10 against Power 4 competition in Cal and Texas A&M. That will not get it done against Opelika High School, folks, just down the street. That won't get it done. That will get you beat. Arkansas turned it over twice, and they were still +3 in turnover margin, 5-2. Just a bad football team right now, Auburn is. You turn the ball over like that, you give up third down conversions, you're not going to win a bunch of football games. It just is what it is. Big one for Auburn on the Plains Saturday afternoon. Hey, they're getting Oklahoma at a good spot. Breaking a new quarterback, first start, emotional game. Hey, I think Auburn's got a little break on that one. Their back's going to be in the corner. How do they react? Arkansas, another opportunity. If Arkansas beats A&M, they're going bowling. And I think Sam Pittman, if he wants to come back, just dropping that. If he wants to come back, we'll have a chance to be back in Fayetteville heading into the 2025 season. But Arkansas gets the 24-14 win over Auburn on the Plains. Let's go to the comments. It's bumping. We got 11 in here. What are we doing? Here we go. Horton hears you. Hook 'em horns, he says. Appreciate you, Horton. Paul Garner. Great timing for the Vols to get off week. Heal up some bumps and bruises. I agree. Good. Hey, they all got to go to the Morgan Wallen concert in Neyland yesterday. You'll see Peyton dressed up. If that maybe the greatest weekend of Josh Heupel's life. He walks out of the tunnel with Morgan Wallen for the concert, beat his alma mater the week before on the road in their house. Not the week before, the night before. Heading into a bye week, getting healthy before the big stretch against Arkansas, Florida, and Alabama. You got to feel good about going in undefeated into Neyland when Alabama comes. But Paul Garner, appreciate you listening. Man, Matthew, he's back, baby. Auburn is missing Robbie Ashford right now. Shoot, he would start for him. That's a good point by you. Matthew. I appreciate you bringing that up. He would start for him, folks. He looked a little improved against Akron. I know it's Akron. But still, they put up 56 points. Paul Garner, I think Auburn going to give Oklahoma all they want and will win it. Watch and see. Would not shock me. That's why the line's 2.5. I think Vegas sees these turnovers for Auburn, these 14 turnovers in 4 games, as something that's not going to be a consistent thing week to week. Now, it has through 4 weeks and through Power 4 competition, like I'm telling you, 10 turnovers. But I think they think that dies down at some point and would make the game a little even. I agree with you. The line opened up at 2.5. Oklahoma breaking in a new quarterback, emotional game. They're banged up, even on the defensive side of the ball. Do you see the same defensive effort this week on the road against Auburn? Probably not. But again, I think Oklahoma's the better team. We'll predict that on Thursday. We'll talk about it at the end of the show. But I'm with you. It wouldn't shock me. Auburn needs it. And when you back a dog into a corner, a desperate dog into the corner, they do things they won't normally do to survive. And that's where Auburn is. That's where Auburn is right now. 2-2 in their first 4, all 4 being at home. That most Auburn fans would be like, yeah, we'll be 4 now after the first 4 heading to that big Oklahoma matchup. Well, they're not. They're 2-2. Must-win situation for the Tigers heading in to Jordan-Hare Stadium on Saturday afternoon. Who else we got here? Carson Crud, take away the dog walk Oklahoma in that crap field. Yeah, ball fans are real frustrated with that field condition I've seen on social media. Paul Garner, Carson, we accomplished what we set out to do. Hans the Gray's back, baby. He's seeing what Jackson isn't seeing. The refs help Hawkins out pretty well, but I got hope for the young fella. Yeah, I think you had to make the move. Again, I'm not a Seth Luttrell guy. That's where I think this got off to the wrong start. If I'm Brent Venables, if I'm BV, I don't know, does Dylan Gabriel make a difference the other night? I mean, you can't protect, and Dylan Gabriel's not real mobile. I think you had to go to Hawkins here in this situation, though, on the road. Carson Cole and Moore, we are going to be hard to beat. Onto the gray. Hope for a speedy recovery for Kendall Dolby. Yeah, we need that for Oklahoma. If you're an Oklahoma fan, you need it. And Matthew Mayhem might right back in. Might as well start Hank Brown for Auburn and have 2 freshman quarterbacks for each team. Yeah, that'd be a storyline, wouldn't it? Next, Mizzou holds on in Como. Yeah, that they did. I think we learned a little bit about Mizzou the last 2 weeks. 2 things can be true at once. Mizzou's good. They're solid. I don't think they're an SEC contender or a playoff contender. I think their record is going to be a little better than they actually are. Call me crazy at the end of the year. Again, I could easily be wrong in this. That's just the way I'm kind of seeing it right now. It's just the way I'm kind of seeing it right now. Just going back, watching the game, I thought Missouri would totally out-athlete Vanderbilt. And give Vanderbilt credit. They got off the mat after had to be a disheartening loss against Vanderbilt, against Georgia State on the road the week before your SEC opener. But you know what? Give Clark Lee credit. He had his team ready to rock and roll heading into that one. 30-27, double overtime loss. I mean, Vanderbilt had a chance to make a field goal late in the game to take the lead. They missed one to tie it, which I think everybody would have bet $1 million he was going to miss that one as well as I was driving back watching it from Auburn. I think total yards here, Vanderbilt 324, Missouri 442, passing 178, 226 for Missouri. Yeah, I mean, Vandy's never going to go pass for a bunch. Diego Pavia gives him a chance every day for Vanderbilt. He does. He gives him a chance every day, every game because he has that X factor, and especially on the ground, and he can pass as well, just moderately where you got to respect it. You do. No turnovers in this game, pretty clean across that board. But if I'm Missouri, I'm a little worried about my deep third on defense. I think Corey Batoon, sorry to think about it for a minute, they're DC. Corey Batoon, I think, has done a good job early. They haven't given up a touchdown in the first 2 weeks, but I think the back end of that secondary is very susceptible. And I think Brady Cook on the other side, he's got to be better if they want to go beat Alabama or Texas A&M next week. They're off this week. Brady Cook's got to be better. He's got to be better. I always said he's a product of the system, a little overrated overall. I think he's got to give a lot of credit to Eli Drinkwitz and Kirby Moore. But Brady Cook's got to be better if they want to go win and actually compete for a trip to get to Atlanta and compete for a playoff spot. But what was our guy Eli Drinkwitz doing here? On 4th and 3 at the Missouri 47, their own 47, with 8 seconds left in the second quarter. Brady Cook took a sack, which I don't know why you don't run the clock down and just make this the last play. Took a sack for a loss of 5 yards to Missouri's 42. Vanderbilt gets the ball 2 plays. They kick a field goal. His time expired, a 57-yarder. I mean, give Brock Taylor credit. He made a 57-yard field goal. It's hard as hell to do. But that was set up because Missouri gave them the field position. Why would you not make that the last play of the half instead of snapping it 4th and 3 with 8 seconds? You take a sack, you give them phenomenal field position. I think Pavia hits Eli Stowers, the tight end, for like 4 or 5 yards. Sets up, I guess, for our guy, Brock Taylor, a manageable 57-yard field goal. Shouldn't say manageable. It was a hell of a kick. But still, you gave up 3 points. And it was 13-10 at half, Vanderbilt. I mean, what are you doing, Eli Drinkwitz? And granted, Eli Drinkwitz at halftime admitted, hey, we made a mistake there. What were we thinking? So I'll give him credit there. But what's going on? Again, everybody's had these games. A win's a win. You got a conference win. But, man, Missouri's got a lot of question marks. And I think if I'm Eli Drinkwitz, again, I'm fired up that Boston College and Vanderbilt were better than I thought. It gave us a lot of things to put on film to show our team before heading into this bye week, before we go to Kyle Field next week in a massive one. If Missouri wins that, you feel pretty good about them probably getting to 10-2 just off schedule alone. Auburn's worse. Oklahoma doesn't look great right now. And they may have a trip to Tuscaloosa. I mean, the only game you say right now you don't feel great about Missouri winning is that trip to Tuscaloosa. Schedule's not very hard. But again, they got a lot of things to work out. But if I'm Eli Drinkwitz, yeah, I'm not fired up taking Vanderbilt to overtime. You could make a case we could have lost that game. But still, a lot of things to improve on. You're still 4-0. But for Vanderbilt, Clark Lee and them, I think Vanderbilt's going to get a conference win this year. I think they're either going to get a conference win against Kentucky or Auburn. Give Clark Lee credit, man. He made the change at defense coordinator, promoted himself up to coordinator and head coach. They're better. They're better. It was kind of scary. Missouri and Vanderbilt's athleticism was pretty similar. I did not think that going in. I thought Missouri would out-athlete them like most teams do on the back end. That wasn't the case. Give Vanderbilt credit. They got off the mat after the Georgia State loss. That's a sign of a good culture team, discipline, and a well-coached team. Give Clark Lee and his team credit. I think they're going to get an SEC win at some point here. At some point, I really do. Gators, get it done on the road, folks. Gators, get it done on the road in Starkville. Two not very good football teams. Let's call a spade here, guys. It's SEC Unfiltered. It's Dave Talk Ball. We call it like it is here. It was a very ugly football game. Again, I had to go back and watch a lot of this because, again, I was in Auburn week. Auburn kicked off our game that me and Chris were out for the SEC Unfiltered tour. It started off at 3:30 Eastern. Obviously, Mississippi State, Florida was that noon kick. But Florida just outclassed Mississippi State. I mean, I said it. I think if Florida comes in just a little focused, doesn't beat themselves, doesn't get in a hole early, they have more talent. They're going to beat themselves. They're not going to beat themselves. Mississippi State loses Blake Shapen for a year. You could not have written a worse script to the start of this season if you are a Mississippi State fan. You're not very good across the board. Mike Leach, I hate saying this. We're going to get into the weeds a little bit here. Mike Leach dying was obviously, you couldn't make up again what happened to this Mississippi State program. Mike Leach died. Their AD had just left to go to Auburn, and John Cohen, who was an alum, it hit him hard. There was no one to hire there, so they hired Zach Arnett. They missed about 2 recruiting classes here. Bring in Jeff Levy. Blake Shapen's probably the best stopgap quarterback for 1 year to run his system. He's out after 4 games. They're 1-3, 0-1. Coleman Hutzler was a bad defensive coordinator hire. That was a CAA Jimmy Sexton agency hire. Hey, Jeff Levy, we got you this job, your first head coaching job in the SEC. You're going to hire our guy too to be the defensive coordinator as well. Go listen to Will Anderson, Dallas Turner. He was the outside linebackers coach at Alabama the last 2 years. Had been at Ole Miss, had been at South Carolina before. They weren't real high on him. Go listen to the interviews now that they have all gone to the NFL. They were not very high on him either. I'll show you a clip here in a minute about Mississippi State. But anyways, Florida gets the win. Wasn't pretty. Let Mississippi State kind of get back into it. Total yards, again, Florida put up 503 yards. Threw for 277, 226. Graham Mertz, 19 for 21, 201. DJ Lagway got some run as well. I mean, Mississippi State's offense is somewhat exciting. I mean, now they're going to have to go with Michael Van Buren or Michael Parsons. I think Van Buren, the true freshman, who I do like off film, but they do go to Texas this week. That one could get ugly. They're on the road at Texas. I mean, their road schedule is hellacious. At Texas, at Tennessee, at Georgia, and at Ole Miss. That's the toughest road schedule in the league. Mississippi State's not going to get a SEC win this year. They may get one more win, but they're staring at 1-11, 2-10 right in the face. For Florida, Billy survives another week. You go into a bye week before UCF comes to the Swamp next week. There's really not a lot to break down in this game, guys. It was just, turnovers here. What do we got? 1-1, wasn't terrible. Penalties, 6. Florida, Mississippi State had 8. The storyline here is just, hey, Florida survives. They were the better team on paper. They survive another week. They get 2 weeks to go kind of figure themselves out. Mississippi State, it's about as bad as a start as you could have hoped for in Jeff Levy's first year. I thought he needed to get to 5 in his first year with a conference win. That's not happening, folks. That is not happening. But I didn't want to sit there and talk too long on this game. So I want to bring that one up. But the rest of the league, folks, let's go around the rest of the league just briefly. Pull up the rest of the scores. ULM and Texas, 51-3 win. Texas getting it. Arch Manning throwing an interception on his first drive. He finished 15 for 29, 258. Threw an interception in the half as well. That's why he's not going to start the big games against Oklahoma and Georgia, folks. Quinn Ewers has played in those games. I did think Texas – how about Sark giving Jaden Blue 25 carries, 124 yards coming off just not playing the week before? That was pretty impressive. I mean, he's really trying to ride him into the ground, isn't he? Isaiah Bond, 2 receptions, 75 yards. Texas did what they were supposed to do here. Texas is a lot better on defense, folks, than we thought. I think they may even be deeper on the interior defensive line when you factor in Alfred Collins, Vernon Broughton, Bill Norton they brought in, the other kid from Arizona they brought in, Sevilla. Texas is pretty deep, guys. I think they're going to be pretty good on defense. Back end looks pretty good. I like this Texas team. They've been handling business, one of the best teams in the country. That's why they're ranked number 1 in the country right now. Ole Miss getting the 52-13 win over Georgia Southern. They improved to 4-0. Ole Miss just doing what they do. I mean, it's 4 straight games against teams that they're much better than. SEC play starts this week, folks, and there's probably no one more excited than Ole Miss season ticket holders. Probably the Ole Miss team themselves. I mean, I know it's Kentucky. You could face better league opponents, but still, got to be fired up heading into it. I'm fired up to start talking a lot more Ole Miss heading into this week because conference play starts. We talked about LSU getting the 34-17 win over UCLA. This game was knotted up at half, 17-17. But LSU, to be fair, they did not give up another point in the second half. They didn't. They did really well throwing the football downfield. Garrett Nussmeier, 32 for 44, 315 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. Run game still can't get going. 28 carries for 102 yards, averaging 3.6 yards per carry. I think that's what LSU is offensively right now. They can't get the run game going. They can pass protect as well as anyone. Garrett Nussmeier can sling it around. They have weapons. I think Mason Taylor is going to get more involved with the receiving game here as it gets going. 8 receptions for 77 yards. Aaron Anderson, C.J. Daniels, Kyron Lacy, we know what they're going to do. Maybe even Kyle Parker steps up a little bit. We know that. Defense forcing some turnovers. What was the turnovers in this game? Let's pull it up real fast. Turnovers in this game, folks. Yeah, they forced 2. LSU did. But again, I thought it was impressive. LSU didn't give up points in the second half defensively. Did lose Harold Perkins, like we talked about when we went around the SEC. That's disheartening. Probably lost 2 players you really couldn't lose. At least 2 out of the top 3 to 4 players going into the year. If I told you couldn't lose, not really just off ability with a guy like Jacobian Guillory, but just need on the interior. But they've lost Jacobian Guillory on the inside where they're thin, and now Harold Perkins for the season as well with a torn ACL. So we wish them both the best. But again, LSU, nothing's going to be easy each week, man. I think they're going to be a little inconsistent, a little high, a little low. Seems like they're going to be able to stretch the field vertically offensively, struggle to get a run game going. Defensively, I think they're going to create some negative plays, force some turnovers, but they're going to continue to give up explosive plays. 281 yards on the ground, rushing only 14 yards, though. Again, that's been probably a little improved if you're an LSU fan this year. To me, too, I thought the interior would be a lot worse. I did. And it hadn't been great, but it hadn't been as bad as I thought. So give Blake Baker and Bo Davis credit for that. But LSU gets the 34-17 win over UCLA, playing back-to-back or playing their second Big Ten opponent as well. We said it. There was going to be a close one. Obviously, Vandy, Missouri. But Texas A&M getting the 26-20 win over a Bowling Green team that was coming off a bye week that took Penn State to the wire 2 weeks before. I mean, A&M was back and forth on this one, folks. It was back and forth. This game was never really out of reach for Bowling Green. It was a score at half. I mean, it was, 13-3 at half. Bowling Green outscored them 14-7 in the third. And then Le'Veon Moss had a chance to put the game away, picked up the first down. A&M was up 2 scores. He fumbles. If he just goes down, the game's over. He fumbles. Bowling Green goes down and scores, and it comes down to an onside kick. That's where your final is 26-20. The thing for A&M, though, looks like they're going to roll with Marcel Reed in this Arkansas game. I mean, overall, they put up 408 yards, 173 yards passing, 235 through the air, averaging 5.5 yards per carry. If they're going to go beat good teams, and even potentially Arkansas this week, they're going to have to start stretching the field more. They're going to have to start stretching the field more. Someone's going to have to step up outside at the receiver spot. That'll be key as they start playing better teams like Arkansas and Missouri. They beat Florida running the football a lot. They beat Bowling Green running the football a lot. People are going to start taking that away. We're going to see what Marcel Reed can do in the passing game. We'll see that starting this week, Saturday in Arlington with Travis Williams and the Arkansas Razorback defense. There'll be plays from A&M to have because Arkansas is not real gap sound or real discipline on defense as well. They'll force negative plays. They'll force turnovers, but they're susceptible to giving them up to. A&M will have chances. Will they be able to? I think that chess matchup between Travis Williams and Colin Klein and also the Mike Elko, Jay Bateman defense versus Bobby Petrino and Taylor Green will be interesting. Whoever probably makes the most mistakes at that quarterback spot will probably end up losing that game. Whoever plays the best team football, not turning the football over, will win between Marcel Reed and Taylor Green. But that'll be a fun matchup as well. A&M's escapes. I knew that game would be close. Kentucky, 41-6 over Ohio. Kentucky is gone 3 straight weeks without a passing touchdown. All came on the ground, had a pick 6 as well, doing what they had to do. The Kentucky defense is legit, folks. And I think that offensive line can get stuff going in the running game. Pass protection is a big key. They take the show on the road to Vaught-Hemingway Stadium in probably a raucous environment. Ole Miss hosting their first home game, SEC play, first real competition. I'm excited to see what that Kentucky defense can do against Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is going to spread them out, not play in a tight box. I'll say this. I think the matchup for Kentucky against Georgia is more in Kentucky's favor than the matchup is against Ole Miss. Because I think Georgia still likes to play in that tight set, a little bit more of a phone booth offensively than Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr. do. That'll be an interesting one. Then South Carolina getting the 57 win over Akron. It was the Robbie Ashford show, folks. 16 carries, 133 yards. Akron's not a good football team, guys. They're 1-3. But again, I took the under in this game, under 45. South Carolina beat that themselves. So give them credit. They put up a lot of yards on the ground. Really overall good team performance. Didn't have key injuries. Rushed for 273 yards. Did what they had to do. Get out of that. Head into a bye week for the big one with Ole Miss coming into town, and then you get Ole Miss at Alabama and at Oklahoma. You need to get one of those three. If you're South Carolina, you want to get to a bowl game, I think, down the stretch. That's the Week 4 slate, guys. That is the Week 4 slate. Man, we got a ton of comments rolling up in here. Let's see what's going on. Who's getting into it before we head into some other stuff? We talked about Michael Hawkins. Any of these? South Carolina, the SC scout guy, the SC defense is for real. They lead the SEC in sacks and TFLs. Yeah, that defensive front is for real. I agree with you there. Appreciate you listening. Mayhem Matthew, Missouri's a good team. Missouri's just an undisciplined team. 8 penalties for 93 yards. Also didn't help that they missed 2 field goals. Again, I think Missouri's a little inconsistent. Back in some question marks. Brady Cook's got to start taking advantage of plays downfield against good teams like Alabama when they take the show on the road, or A&M next week if they want to go win those games. Paul Garner, if the Vol offensive line can hold up the entire season without major injuries, Tennessee can win it all. I think the offensive line will be the key. Nico is only going to get better. I agree with that. Trying to get through anybody else new. Appreciate Paul Garner, UT Bag. South Carolina guys, aren't you watching Tennessee shows too? I see you in Tennessee cast all the time. I don't know what you're talking about there. UT Bag Gumps. Media hasn't liked Tennessee since us fans refused to be okay with Greg Schiano from Joe Paterno. Yeah, that was Clay Travis burning them down. Keep going through. That's really it right now, guys. Keep going. Keep chatting in here. UT Bag Gumps. Yeah, I think this guy's pretty – I don't know. You mad in here, UT Bag Gumps? That's a W in Arkansas. These kids are different. They don't care about whose cost of attendance thing or last year's. These boys are on a mission, especially the defense that always gets shit talked about. Yeah, Tennessee's defense is going to be the difference in between. If they win a championship this year, it'll be because of that defense, not Nico. I'm just telling people that. But moving on, Week 4 review, where I was right, where I was wrong. Let's get to it. Where Dave was right, where Dave was wrong. I underestimated how bad the Mississippi State defense was. Let's go share something real fast. Let's go to present. Share screens with my guy Carter Bryant here. My guy Carter B. Bryant. Watch this. Watch this tweet. I appreciate him putting this together for us. Can you all see this? Yeah, you can see this. Perfect. All right. It's a video.
Z-Dagger.
Mississippi State defensive front here. Watch this. What is this alignment here by Coleman Hutzler's group? They're running to the right, Florida here. And that's what I'm saying. Where I was wrong, and I wasn't really wrong in this. I was not high on Mississippi State going in, but I was wrong on how bad they would be. What is this alignment here? There's no one in the A or B gap here to the right side, to the strong side. And they stunt to the left side here. Again, I appreciate our guy Carter Bryant, who's been on this show, does stuff for LSU and Arkansas. I mean, I'm running through that. This isn't just again, the Mississippi State personnel is not great, guys. I'm not saying that. But this is a schematic thing with Coleman Hunter, too. This has been an issue since they played Arizona State, and the Chase Scadaboo kid ran for 275 yards. Everybody has ran and put up points on Mississippi State outside of Eastern Kentucky. What is this? What is this play? No one is lined up. They got an A. No one is in the B, C, or D gap here. Well, what is going on? And they stunt and run gains through the left side as well. I mean, my guy's 66 here, just Brendan Crenshaw Dixon. I think he's confused. He's so far down the field, he hadn't touched anyone yet. This is bad defense, folks. This is bad defense across the board. That's bad. Again, I underestimated it. Where I was wrong, I underestimated how bad this Mississippi State defense was, and I wasn't high on them going into the year. So I was somewhat right, but again, I wasn't wrong a lot in Week 4, so I was trying to find stuff here. But this was it. I was really wrong on how bad they would be. I said it would be bad. I didn't know it would be this bad. Second, a bit surprised to see South Carolina have so much success on the ground. Again, they put up 55 points. Robbie Ashford had a big day. I think Akron's a bad football team, but still, it's got to be positive if you're a South Carolina fan. Key will be Rocket Sanders getting back and Lenore Sellers as well. I was wrong about that. I think this ground game could be a little bit better than even I suspected. And the last where I was wrong, I thought Missouri would take a little bit more advantage of Vanderbilt's lack of athleticism in the back end. I don't really know what happened there. Again, I think some of it's Brady Cook missing some throws downfield that he's not going to be able to get away with when they start playing better teams and teams that are the same athletic level as them. And to be fair, I'm not saying Vanderbilt's on the same athletic level as Luther Burden. But it just looked like they were running the same speed, and you don't see that a lot with Vanderbilt. Usually Vanderbilt is out-athleted. I didn't feel that way. But those are the three things where I was wrong this week. Underestimated how bad the Mississippi State defense was. I knew it would be bad. Didn't know it would be horrific. You saw the clip with Carter. Bit surprised South Carolina's had so much success on the run the last 2 weeks on the ground with the offensive line. Then I thought Missouri would take advantage more of the Vanderbilt's lack of athleticism. I thought that was a big issue as well. Now, where I was right, I said it, folks. I said it. Where I was right. Arkansas would win by double digits on the Plains. I went on a couple shows last week and I said it. I said Arkansas is going to win this game by double digits. And people were like, whoa, really? It's like, yeah, I don't know if it's going to be like a 42-17 win, but I think they're going to kick like a field goal like they did at the end to go up 2 scores. Arkansas was up that whole game. Hugh Freeze can say they would win 9 more times all he wants. I don't think that's true. He's in denial. Arkansas had turnovers as well. I just think Arkansas was the better team. Even in a loss to Oklahoma State, they'd looked a lot better than Auburn had through the first 3 weeks. That did not shock me at all. I was there to witness it. Then second, I only have 2 where I was right. Wanted to be a little humble. I said someone would be that we were not expecting heading into week 4 would be in a war in the fourth quarter unexpectedly. And it was Texas A&M, Bowling Green, A&M getting the 26-20 win, and then Missouri, Vandy. Missouri getting the double overtime win over Vandy. It's been that way all 4 weeks so far. Every week, someone has gotten unexpectedly taken down to the wire. This past week, it was Texas A&M against Bowling Green playing, and I called it. Bowling Green was set up perfectly. Bye week, they had a whole week, extra week to watch the Florida game when they played Marcel Reed to game plan for that. They took Penn State to the wire 2 weeks ago. And then Missouri, Vandy. I didn't call that one. I thought Missouri would win by double digits, but man, the lack of speed Missouri showed the other day. But I don't know, for whatever reason, it's just bothered me. That stick with me. I thought they would separate from an athletic standpoint, and they didn't. But again, I was right on not only one, but there were 2 games that unexpectedly went down to the wire. So appreciate you joining us on Monday's segment of where Dave was wrong and where Dave was right. Let's go to another segment here, folks. Is the SEC just a 5-team league? Is it just a 5-team league right now, folks? Let's be honest. Is it just a 5-team league? Is it just Texas? Is it just Ole Miss? Is it just Georgia? Is it just Alabama? Is it just Tennessee? I think right now it is. Call me crazy. I think those are the 5 teams competing for a spot in Atlanta, competing for a playoff spot. I think there's a gap after that. I think it was Bama, Missouri. I think Bama, even without playing, didn't really separate themselves, but I think Missouri dropped down a little bit. I think Missouri's kind of Missouri, LSU are kind of in that category by themselves. But I'll say this. I think from Missouri to Vandy, and let me read the teams. I think teams from Missouri to Vandy could beat each other on a given day. I think teams like Arkansas, LSU, Missouri, A&M, South Carolina, Kentucky, Oklahoma, and Vandy could all beat each other on a given day. And maybe Kentucky a little early. Maybe you take Kentucky out. You put Kentucky and Florida in their own category. And then at the very end, you put Auburn and Vanderbilt. That's probably how it is sectioned right now. So right now, if I was breaking down the SEC, when I say it's just a 5-team league, I think there's only 5 teams that can truly go compete for a true championship and win it. I mean, if you told me any of those 5 made it to Atlanta for the SEC championship game, I'd be like, yeah, I'm not shocked. So I would say Tennessee, Bama, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Texas. Gap. Probably Missouri and LSU. But then I also say I think Missouri, LSU, Arkansas, A&M, South Carolina, Oklahoma, and Vandy could all beat each other on a given day. That's a compliment to Clark Lee and them really putting that conversation. But I honestly believe that. Then I think you kind of got Kentucky, Florida kind of in their own little territory where it's like, I don't know if they can beat anybody on a given day. Maybe Kentucky because their defense travels. It's going to keep them in it. Their offense is so bad. Florida's all over the place. You know, I mean, they know their head coaches have been gone at the end of the year. It's a matter of a win, not if. They're going on a bye week. Then I think you got Auburn and Mississippi State sitting there by themselves, and they don't play this year. You know, Auburn's probably a little better than Mississippi State if they could get the turnovers down. But again, until you stop turning the ball over 5 times a game, I'm putting you as one of the worst teams in the league with Mississippi State. Mississippi State's they're right up there with 2019 Arkansas, one of the worst teams in SEC history. Man, I think this is going to be a 1-11, 2-10 team, guys. I'm just telling you. Sorry for the Mississippi State faithful listening. I think that's just reality this year. But I think the SEC is a 5-team league, and I think after that, it's a lot of above average to mediocrity play. I hate saying it, But I think the SEC is just a 5-team league, and that's fine. So I think those are the 5 best teams. I think those will be 5 teams that get in the playoffs, the 4 to 5 teams that get in the playoffs. I even saw somebody say today, if Missouri's 10-2 in that schedule, the way they keep playing, does a 9-3 USC get in over them? Does a 9-3 Michigan get in over them? Fair conversation. I think it's a fair conversation. But I do think the SEC is a 5-team league. This wasn't going to be some long segment. I'd love to hear the comments in the how in our chat room here, how that's going. I'm serious. I think it's a 5-team league and a bunch of above average mediocrity to bad after that. I don't think the middle of the SEC this year is that great because I think the teams sitting at 6-7 are Missouri and LSU. And Missouri's kind of shown some warts. They won, and again, it's hard to win in college football, guys. If you're undefeated 4-0 right now, you don't take that for granted. But we've seen LSU struggle a little bit. Could easily have lost 2 games so far. They're the 6th, 7th best team in the SEC this year. I think the SEC is a bit top heavy. And again, like I said, above average to mediocrity to really bad down at the bottom of the league. But every conference has the really bad in the bottom of the league. South Carolina scout guy, I feel really bad for Vandy. Those kids played hard for Clark Lee. They did. I agree with you. Let's see. A lot of talent in the SEC from our guy, UT Bag Gums. 5 then drop. Missouri, LSU drop, rest. I'd agree. He agrees with me, it looks like. Laugh out loud from our guy, Paul Garner. He's done embarrassed himself, UT Bag Gums. Don't even realize it. Who else we got? Anything else interesting? No, we're talking about Tennessee late 1990s. Appreciate that, guys. Keep commenting there. I'll answer your questions as we keep going here. Let's go to a little money-making weekend. Let's go to a little money-making weekend review here. Again, guys, the record's not going to show it. We're 4-6. We're 4-6. Let's call a spade here. That's not good. It's never good. We want to finish with a winning record. We want to go 6-4 when we predict 10. Right now for the season, now we're 18-27 in the season. But there's a lot of these games I would bet again. And I'm starting to get a real feel for these teams. Remember, week 4, week 5 is when you get a real feel. Give me this week and we'll be good. But here's how they went. LSU team total over 39.5. Didn't get there. Would probably bet that again, though. I like my reasonings. UCLA cross country. I thought LSU would be able to run the football a little bit better. I don't hate that pick. What did they finish with? 32.5? Is that what it was? Ended up finalizing in that game? Let's go back to it. 34. So I wasn't far off there, but that was a loss. Let's go back to Ole Miss team total under 51.5. They scored 52. I lost it by half a point, folks. I would bet that one again. South Carolina Akron under 45.5. For what I knew with Robbie Ashford starting, I would take that again. Didn't realize how bad Akron was on the ground and probably how much better, a little bit better South Carolina is on the ground than I expected. I thought the game would go under 45.5. South Carolina cleared that themselves at 50. That was an L. Nebraska, Illinois on Friday, first half under. Just missed it. 27. I had it the under 21.5. So right there, 0-4 right off the bat. Well, we got better, folks. Wazoo team total on Friday night, 34.5. They scored 52 in overtime. Cleared that one with ease. Another loss here, Kansas +2. They went into delay. Kansas was up in Morgantown at West Virginia. They ended up losing by 4. I would bet that one again. I lost that one by 2. Indiana -28. They are putting food on the table for folks, people. Keep betting the Hoosiers. I bet them every week they covered. They covered 28.5 against Charlotte easily. Army -6 against Rice. They covered this easily. I love the service academies this year. They're pretty good. Them in Army, them in Navy. Louisville -6. Just missed this one. Brent Key went for it on 4th down instead of kicking the field goal on the goal line at the end of the first half to lose me this bet. Louisville was up, but they were only up 3. Should have been up 7. So Brent Key, thank you for screwing me over, man. Kick the field goal and only be down 7. Instead, you went for it. I'm just kidding. You went for it. You got it. Ended up better being for the wreck, but it killed me. And then Penn State, my blood bank guarantee, -49 against Kent State. Tennessee fans remember how bad that Kent State team was, the Golden Flashes. That wasn't your Nick Saban's Kent State. They're a bad football team. Tennessee was up 50-0 at half. Penn State, James Franklin cares about it. Within the industry, it's very well known. James Franklin really cares about, and I think Josh Heupel does too, about spreads. They like to go cover spreads. It helps them out, I think, from a booster standpoint. James Franklin definitely cares. I knew he would try to cover the 49 after what Tennessee did against Kent State the day before. That was an easy win. I mean, what was the final? I didn't even check the final when I saw that. Or maybe it's 56-0. Let's see. But we won that one with ease. Yeah, 56-0. Really never even in doubt. But that's reviewing it. We went 4-6. The wins were Penn State -49, Army -6, Indiana over Charlotte -28, just putting food on the table, and Wazoo team total over 34.5. Should have had the Ole Miss one, lost that one by half. LSU still feel good about that one. South Carolina, Akron, I missed that one big time, but I like the information I had going into it. Just missed Nebraska, Illinois. I would bet Kansas +2 again on the road. They were up late. They ended up losing by 4 at West Virginia. Neil Brown needed that one, by the way. And then Louisville, that just came down to a 4th down decision with like 3 seconds left. If he kicks a field goal to be down 7, because they were down 10 in the situation. Here's the situation for Georgia Tech. They were down 10 with the ball on the 1-yard line with 3 seconds left. They ran the last play to go cut it to 3 instead of 7. I remember I was in the stadium at Jordan Hare. I was like, just kick the field goal and I win. So we weren't far off. We want to go 6-4 each year, be 60%. We're getting up there. Again, I feel more comfortable going into week 5. So hang with me. Again, our record's not great right now. We're not sugarcoating it. 18-27 on the season, but don't start fading me late, folks. Do not start fading me late. Let's go get into those comments before we kind of just briefly look ahead to week 5. SC Scout Guy, again, appreciate you listening. I do feel bad for Mississippi State right now, he says. I played on the 1999 South Carolina team, and we didn't win a single game. It was really tough, but we never gave up. And Coach Holtz never lost the locker room. Hey, tip of the cap to you guys. But the problem with that is, SC Scout Guy, it's all about self-preservation now with the coaches and players now. You got unlimited transfers, NIL. When you have nothing to play for anymore in the middle of the season, everybody starts looking out for number 1. I mean, there was a player in Arkansas last year at Ole Miss. I'll just say his name, Chris Paul. From talking to people at Arkansas, he could have played in those last couple of games in Arkansas last year, but decided not to because he knew he was there in the portal and was saving himself, didn't want to get another injury. That's how it kind of goes. There's no momentum built up. I know it's first year for Jeff Levy, but inevitably he's probably going to want some guys to leave, and they're probably going to want to leave too. Some of your guys you're going to need to play are probably telling their training staff, I'm just a little more sore. Or if they were winning, trying to go get a bowl win, one maybe an SEC game or two, they're like, no, I want to go win. I want to go play against Arkansas or Texas A&M. That's not the case. More time than ever now. Anytime ever. It's more important now that you have to build up some internal momentum because people tend to play for themselves and coach for themselves now, more so than they did back in 1999 when you played. When you were at South Carolina, you were going to be at South Carolina unless you wanted to go sit out a year. But I appreciate you listening, SC Scout Guy. UT Bag Gumps. You nailed it, really, Dave. Top 5 drop. I said it. Thank you, UT Bag Gumps. I feel pretty good, too. I think it's a top 5 league. Then after that, it's some above average to mediocrity to bad play outside of that. Mayhem Matthew. I learned from this chat that Tennessee's going 12-0 and winning the Natty. Tennessee is back, baby. You would hear that. I think Tennessee is pretty good, though. You can make a case they're the best-looking team in the country right now. Let's see who we got here. UT Bag Dumps. He's back again. LSU is a team that can win at any time, but they don't show up consistently. You're right. Right. Arkansas kind of puts a vibe like that, too. There's kind of a lot of teams like that. LSU, again, that's why I had going into the year 8-4, 9-3. Inconsistency is why they won. Again, can't run the football. They're mounting injuries with 2 dudes they couldn't afford to already that are out for the year. Injuries inevitably are going to continue to happen. Maybe not the season-ending ones, but the nicks and bruises are inevitably going to happen. And again, I worked in college football for 9 years, worked in SEC offices for 6 of them. These players are more banged up on these injury reports when we go over it every morning in staff meeting than even the fans, beat writers even lead on. Now, with these injury reports with conference, that makes it, you got to be a little bit more open because they have that fine now with the probable, questionable out stuff. You got to be honest. They've said they're going to come out and do some investigation. I'll be interested in how they would go about that, though. Green Wave. Appreciate you listening. I don't like to say this. However, truth is Tennessee is the truth. Vol is very strong now. I would agree. Paul Garner, Mayhem, that's about the best comment you've made. To be honest, I've embarrassed you. And the sad part is you don't see it. So we got Paul Garner and Mayhem going at it. Skip a few of these arguments. You guys keep going at it. That's what makes SEC football great. Y'all's points here in the chat room. Anybody else? Yep. You two just arguing. Yeah. Paul Garner, still appreciate you listening. SEC is still the strongest conference. Yeah, I would agree. Again, it's 5 teams, 5 legitimate SEC contenders, 5 legitimate playoff contenders. I just think the middle of the league, the middle class of the league is a little average. That's what I would say this year, but not as deep as the SEC has been. Again, if LSU and Missouri are 6 and 7 in the 6th and 7th out of the 16-team league, I could remember 6 to 7, the 6th, 7th teams being better in years past. But let's look ahead real quick to next week's action before I get you out here in the SEC. Just to let you know initially who's on bye. It's like the old SEC East. What? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 of these teams are on a bye, the old SEC East teams. Tennessee, Florida, Missouri, Vandy, and South Carolina, those 5 teams are on a bye. So this is the lightest week we've had, but it should be a good one. Kentucky at Ole Miss, 11 a.m. Eastern on ABC. Ole Miss's first real team with a pulse. No disrespect to Wake Forest, Georgia Southern, Furman, or Middle Tennessee State, but SEC opener at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. Kentucky was there 2 years ago. Game that Kentucky could have won when Will Levis was there. For, I think that illegal formation play brought back a touchdown. Ole Miss favored by 17.5. Total right now 52.5. If Ole Miss gets out early, I just don't see Kentucky coming back. Kentucky needs to be good in the red zone defensively, and they need to stay ahead of schedule offensively on first and second down and throw on their own terms on third down. If they're in third and longs, this game could get ugly. If Kentucky's giving up explosives for touchdowns, it could get ugly. I think Kentucky matches up better with Georgia than they do Ole Miss, honestly, because I think Ole Miss is going to spread them out, put up yards. Key will be, can they hold Ole Miss to field goals instead of touchdowns? Oklahoma at Auburn, 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time Zone on ABC. Oklahoma currently favored by 2.5. Total 46.5. Oklahoma will be starting Michael Hawkins, as Brent Venables announced on his coach's show today. Auburn, and Hugh Freeze said today at his press conference, to be a battle still between Hank Brown and Peyton Thorne, who gets the start. Big one for both teams. If Oklahoma wins this, they can breathe a sigh of relief. They're probably going to get to 6. Injuries bearing in their first year in the SEC. Auburn has to have it to get to 6. They lose this, I don't see it because they're on the road for the next 3 weeks, next 4 weeks before they host Vanderbilt in November the next time they're back at home. But it makes sense. Their first 5 are at home, so they have to be on the road for a bit. But they're in Athens next week. They're in Como the next week against Missouri. And I think a bye week, then Kentucky or something like that. But it is Kentucky right after. Must win here. I could see this game. Someone said it in the comments. I could see this game being a little closer than people think. Because Oklahoma's coming off that emotional game. They're not going to have that same fire or juice after that. Offensively, I don't know what they're really going to do. A true freshman or a freshman's first start on the road in the SEC with a week for Auburn and DJ Durkin to prepare. I thought DJ Durkin had a good plan against Arkansas last week. Took away the read option for Taylon Green, confused him a lot. I could see them doing the same there. Same point though, I don't see Peyton Thorne or Hank Brown or Auburn doing a whole lot against Oklahoma's defense. I said it going into the year. Oklahoma may not be the best defense from top to bottom, but at all 3 levels, they have the least amount of question marks. They returned 8 of their leading tacklers last year to go into year 3 of a Brent Venables defense. Adding Zach Alley coming over from Jacksonville State. It's a good defense. It was a heroic defense performance just to even keep them in the game last week. This is a big one for both teams here. Both teams need to have it. 2:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Arkansas at Texas A&M. A&M favored by 3.5. Last year, it's in Jerry's World, folks. Last year, it's in Jerry's World. Team total 52.5 here. I think it's going to come down to who makes the least amount of mistakes. I mean, it's going to be in a lot of Arkansas's games, but who makes the least amount of mistakes at this quarterback spot? Marcel Reed for Texas A&M or Taylon Green for Arkansas? Limit mistakes, limit penalties. I think this game's going to come down to the wire here. A&M needs it to set up that big showdown against Missouri the next week. Arkansas needs it. They win. They may be hosting game day when Tennessee comes to town next week. Should be another fun one. This always comes down to the wire. Last year wasn't really close, but the year before that, you had Damani Richardson return, KJ Jefferson fumble from the opposing team's goal line all the way back. This game's usually pretty close. Wild games. I was a part of 2 of them. This will be a fun one. Could come down to the wire. It's going to come down to who makes the least amount of mistakes. 3:15 Eastern or 3:15 Central, on the SEC Network. Mississippi State at number 1 Texas. Texas favored by 38.5. Total 61.5. Again, remember Mississippi State starting true freshman Michael Van Buren, who I do like, but first road start at Texas. Texas's first SEC game. Texas could cover if they want. I think Arch Manning's going to get the start here before they head into a bye week, and then they play Oklahoma and Georgia back-to-back. I think they'll want Quinn Ewers back then. But again, I think Texas can do what they want. They can probably run as far for how many as they want, because I don't think Coleman Hustler is going to change his defensive scheme. I showed you Carter Bryant's film review. I think that's not going to change. It hadn't changed all year. I mean, go listen to Scatterboo, the running back at Arizona State, by the way. He was a beast. Post-game, after they played Mississippi State 2 weeks ago, he kept being like, yeah, we were surprised they stayed in that 3-man front, so we just kept running. He rushed for 275 yards. Mississippi State's not going to totally change their strategy in the middle of the season. Most coaches are pretty stubborn in that. This should be Texas big. Again, the line's 38.5. And then you got 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time Zone on ABC. This is the game of the week. Georgia at Alabama. Georgia currently favored by 1.5. Total 48.5. Woo! Storylines here, guys. I think the thing to initially get into before we really preview this, again, go check out our preview on the SEC Unfiltered platform. Myself, Cole Thompson, and Chris Phillips put it out there. I'll give you my predictions on Thursday. But Georgia's beat up. Will they have Michael Williams back? I think so. Will they get Warren Brinson back on the interior of the defensive line? I think so. I think Jordan Hall could be out. They got some injuries on the offensive line. Tate Ratledge is out. I think that's key. I think that's kind of why I lean Alabama right now. It's in Bryant-Denny Stadium. I think Jalen Milroe is going to be a little of an X factor. I think Georgia, Glenn Schumann, and Kirby Smart change kind of their strategy against Jalen Milroe in this game. I think last year they tried to must rush him, keep it in the pocket, make him make plays down the field. I think they're going to try to bring some pressure. Maybe take a little page out of Todd Orlando's book. If you don't know who that is, that's the USF. That's South Florida's defensive coordinator. He's had success against Alabama the last 2 years. Granted, Jalen Milroe didn't start 2 years ago in Tampa, but they had success coming after Jalen Milroe 2 weeks ago. I could see something similar. Bama's got holes on the back end. They can be exploited. This is the first quarterback they're playing with Carson Beck. And again, I don't think Georgia's got great receivers. They got solid ones, no real difference maker. But remember, Alabama's only got 6 scholarship corners, 3 of them being true freshmen. Explosive plays. Taking advantage of explosive plays is going to be big in this one. This will be fun to preview on Thursday. Can't wait to do that. Then finally, the only non-conference matchup we have this weekend, 6:45 p.m. Central Standard Time Zone on the SEC Network. South Alabama at LSU. LSU favored by 21. The total being right now 65.5. South Alabama comes into this one 2-2. Lost to North Texas, lost to Ohio, but beat Northwestern. Remember, they were the team 2 weeks ago, put up 87 in an 87-10 win over Northwestern State. Then they had a big Sun Belt win the other day, last week on, Thursday night at App State, 48-14. So South Alabama, Major Applewhite and the boys are going to be coming in hot. They're coming off performances of an 87 and a 48 back-to-back. LSU better be careful. They better not be overlooking this one, or they could be getting some points put up on them as well. I mean, I'm serious. LSU better not be overlooking this one. This one, they could find themselves in a game in the fourth quarter if they're turning it over, not getting a running game going, giving up explosive plays. I mean, it's just the fact. And LSU's looking ahead to a bye week. Remember that before the big matchup against Ole Miss. LSU better be careful. Better be careful a little bit. I think LSU wins the game, but you could find yourself in a dogfight in the fourth quarter if you're not careful. Because South Alabama's capable of putting points. They'll be excited, Major Applewhite, to have an opportunity to go put up points for a third straight weekend against an SEC opponent. Any other comments before we get out of here? Let's go here. Hugh D. Bag says Hugh Freeze is a tool. No humility. Blaming college kids that he chose to stick with in press conference. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm for players getting criticism now that they're being paid through NIL, but also have some awareness. Your team's struggling. You got to keep this group together. Like I said, team momentum internally now is as important as it's ever been because everybody looks out for number one now. It's easy to leave now. Hugh Freeze got to be a little bit more aware and know you would not have beaten Arkansas 9 times if you played them again. Going through here. No, I think that's it, guys. But no, we went a little bit over, 13 minutes over than we normally do on the show, guys. But again, I appreciate you guys joining us on this episode of Dave Talks Ball. Remember, shows every Monday night and Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will preview all 5 of those matchups for this upcoming weekend in Week 5 on Thursday. I think we're going to have ESPN's Chris Lowe come help us preview all the action from the SEC this upcoming weekend. Again, guys, we talked about a lot. We broke down a lot, guys. We went around the SEC. Oklahoma starting Michael Hawkins this week, heading into the Plains, a big one for both teams. Harold Perkins out for the year. What is LSU going to do there defensively as they head into a game against South Alabama? Alabama, first time they've been a home underdog since 2007. Nick Saban's first year when Les Miles and them came to town. Hugh Freeze calling out his players. Hugh, have some awareness. We had the Week 4 review. Tennessee's the team that stood out. Where Dave was right, where he was wrong. I was wrong how bad the Mississippi State defense is. It's atrocious. Bit surprised South Carolina got the run game going as easily as they did against Akron. Thought Missouri without athlete Vanderbilt. Boy, was I wrong. Where I was right, Arkansas would win by double digits on the Plains. They did. Also, there'd be an unexpectedly close game in the fourth quarter. Bowling Green, Texas A&M. Then obviously Vanderbilt, Missouri went in double overtime. And then I said, is this league a 5-team league? I think it's Texas, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Georgia, and Alabama. Not in that order, but I think it's those 5 teams, gap. Then I think you got a lot of above average mediocrity to really bad play for the other 11 teams in the league. Just think of that's a fact. I think if you made a case, any of those 5 teams making it to Atlanta for the SEC championship, or even making it to Atlanta for the national championship, because remember, that's where the national championship is for the college football playoff this year, would not shock me out of those 5 teams. And then betting review. Guys, we're going to get better. Week 5's our week. I'm telling y'all, I'm starting to get more film, starting to get a better film. We're going to be over 50% by the end of the year, guys, I promise. Then the week ahead, looking ahead to the week 5 action, obviously the big one, Georgia at Alabama. We'll preview that one with Chris Lowe on Thursday. Big one for Texas A&M and Arkansas. Springboard game for both. And then it's a must-have for Oklahoma and Auburn on the Plains. Auburn needs it to get to bowl eligibility. If Oklahoma wins, they feel good. Starting Michael Hawkins, there's probably not going to be a lot of points scored in that game. But, guys, I do appreciate you joining us on this episode of Dave Talks Ball. Go to the SEC Unfiltered platform, guys. Go follow us on all our social media outlets, all our social media platforms on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok. We're on all day, every day. Content bleeding out the eyeballs for us here come football season. But we cover football, basketball, and baseball. Basketball season, girls and guys, 6 weeks away. I think the SEC is going to be pretty good as well. We'll keep bringing you that action as well. But I do appreciate you joining us on this episode tonight. I'll see you on Thursday. You have a great rest of your week.